Putin says he will not attack NATO member states.
Ukraine braces for more attacks by Russia following last week's ISIS terror attack on a Moscow theatre, which Vladimir Putin is trying to link to Ukraine. Latinos moving to Madrid are turning the city into the new Miami.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has said he will not attack NATO countries in a meeting with military personnel. The claim came after Western countries have insinuated that this was a possibility. But in a press conference, when asked about F-16 fighter jets, he said that the aircraft would be shot down by Russian forces. He also said that Western air bases hosting US-made F-16 fighter jets would become legitimate targets for Russia. US, Denmark and the Netherlands have promised to send F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, with the first dozens arriving to Ukraine this summer. The F-16s require a high standard of runways and reinforced hangars to protect them. Military analysts have said that the arrival of the jets wouldn't be a game changer, but Ukrainian officials have welcomed them. Putin said that the arrival of F-16s in Ukraine would do little to change the battlefield.
Ukraine is bracing itself for further resurgent attacks across the country following last week's ISIS-K terrorist campaign in a Moscow theatre, which Vladimir Putin is trying to link to Ukraine. Ukrainian military sources say Russia has fired 26 ballistic missiles in the last week, targeting and hitting civilian infrastructure in the capital, Kyiv. The Deputy Minister for Defence is decrying the ongoing artillery supply issues.
The greatest security fear is our growing gap in artillery firepower. We have that support, we feel that support, we understand that there are technical problems with replenishment of stocks, but we feel your solidarity and very much appreciate it.
One of the Russian attacks in the last few days was the outright destruction of a college in central Kyiv. Sergei went to this college.
I never could imagine that I will see my college in such bad condition. And if you go inside, you see the windows came out completely in the yard. The blast wave put all the windows out of the building that way. It's unbelievable. We are desperately in need of help of our allies.
An EU delegation of MEPs from the Liberal Renew Party in the European Parliament is in Ukraine to signal support for the country as part of their manifesto in the European Parliament elections in June.
Indeed, for us it's important to have the feeling, to go on the ground, to have the feeling and to better understand the political situation and the military situation, and to go back to my people in France, in Romania, in Poland, to explain what happened in Ukraine. So we are indeed, in a few months we will have the European elections. We should explain, we must explain to the European citizens that this war in Ukraine is also has a huge impact for us, and the security of Ukrainian people is our security. And our destiny is are intertwined.
Given that more attacks are expected, the Ukrainian government, President Zelensky, is calling for greater air defences and more missiles capable of repelling any further Russian attack. Shona Murray, Euronews, Kyiv.
The Prime Ministers of Poland and Ukraine met for talks aiming to meet the demands of Polish and Western European farmers. The two made proposals on restricting cheap Ukrainian food imports that farmers say is undermining their livelihoods.
Блокада українського кордону з боку окремих польських груп, звісно ж, шкодить економіці Польщі, економіці України та Європейському Союзу в цілому. Сьогодні я можу сказати, що ми точно маємо прогрес щодо зняття блокади, але головне щодо вирішення всіх критичних питань, які призводять до таких блокад. План Наш план виконується не так швидко, як би хотілося, але однозначно маємо позитивні тенденції.
Both agreed that more work was needed and said it would be helpful if the European Union went forward with a proposed 50% tax on Russian and Belarusian food products. Farmers in many European countries have been staging protests targeting the cheap imports from Ukraine, which are not taxed. In a poll conducted by Euronews and Ipsos, more than 70% of Europeans agree the EU should provide assistance to Ukraine. Since the beginning of the war, the EU and its member states have provided €93 billion in financial, military, humanitarian and refugee aid to Ukraine, which is suffering from Russian aggression. This is supplemented by the €50 billion aid the EU leaders decided on at the beginning of February. According to Sven Biskop, director of the Brussels-based Egmont Institute, the EU has no choice but to support Ukraine's struggle for territorial defence, as Ukraine has become a candidate for EU membership.
The EU has made an unprecedented step. We have made a country that is at war a candidate for EU membership. We have never done that. That means we have now assumed the responsibility for the survival of an independent Ukraine on as large a territory as possible. So having made this important geopolitical decision, we have now no choice but to stick with Ukraine.
The data shows that Scandinavian countries agree with the support of Ukraine far above the EU average, with 68% of Swedish people thinking support is important. Only 12% of Hungarians agree, as voters of the far-right Identity and Democracy group are the least committed in general to supporting Ukraine. Biskop suggests that this link is due to the influence of Russian disinformation and that Ukraine is reliant on foreign assistance in order to defeat Russia.
I find it surprising that many far-right parties, which claim to be nationalists, allow themselves to be willingly instrumentalized by Russia and mislead their voters. I mean, if they were sincere, caring about the national interest, they would see that these are interests to support Ukraine and not to help spread Russian disinformation within the EU.
The gap between aid the EU has committed to Ukraine and what has been allocated remains large, with €77 billion allocated from the 144 promised. Poland has dismissed the Polish commander of the European Raid Reaction Military, Eurocorps. Lieutenant General Jaroslaw Gromadinski was training Ukrainian soldiers in Germany. He maintains that he is not to blame, and the inspection procedure initiated by the military counterintelligence service would end positively for him. Polish Defense Ministry said that new information regarding the lieutenant has come to light and that an investigation has been launched. Gromadzinski has been ordered to return from Eurocorps' headquarters in Strasbourg, and a replacement will be found immediately. No further details on the reasons for his dismissal were given. Eurocorps was founded in 1992 to support various European Union and NATO missions. It has served missions in the Balkans and Afghanistan.
In the heart of the Salamanca neighbourhood of Madrid, a flat with 2 ensuite bedrooms priced at over €1 million, and it won't last long on the market. Flats like these are long coveted by wealthy Latinos who are turning Madrid into a new Miami.
Está sobre todo orientado a latinoamericanos y es cierto que ahora mismo la demanda que hay es altísima, quintuplica la oferta de pisos que tenemos ahora mismo en el barrio.
Marcela Perez is a decorator and designer charged with decorating the flats of Venezuelans, Mexicans and Colombians, anyone who comes to the city, according to her clients' taste.
Hay muchas ocasiones en las que pasan en realidad estancias cortas, máximo 6 meses, entonces prefieren asignarlo a alguien para que los pueda comprar y cuando ellos lleguen esté todo completamente montado.
Octavio Rojas has been in Madrid for 15 years. He leads the Association of Mexican Businessmen in Spain and has been facilitating their moves and investments in Spain.
Madrid, España, pues ofrece justamente lo que se está buscando: seguridad, robustez, seguridad jurídica y luego, bueno, pues también una oferta gastronómica fantástica y también cultural.
5-star hotels and high-end businesses are thriving in the heat of new Latin migration.
Los nuevos vecinos de Madrid están animando el ocio y la alta cultura de la ciudad. En galerías de arte como estas, el 90% de los clientes son ya coleccionistas latinoamericanos.
Popular Latin American restaurant chains have set up shop in Madrid to satisfy the tastes of their compatriots and bring their flavors closer to the local population.
La llegada de una población mexicana bastante grande ha ayudado a que en los principales bares de moda la gente demande el tequila, demande el mezcal y ahora ya tenemos en restaurantes de grandes chefs que ahora ya consumen destilados mexicanos.
Madrid's newest Latinos are here to stay, and thanks to them, Madrid is today a little more cosmopolitan.